Cognizant has started its freshers hiring. So in this video, we will discuss about its hiring workflow and the syllabus in brief. So please be till the end of the video to know every detail in brief. I will talk about every cluster and every single assessment that will happen in this hiring. Okay, so now let's move on forward with the hiring workflow. So this is about hiring, and these are the roles that Cognizant generally hires for. First one is Gen Z Next, which has a package of 6.75 LPA, and the designation is Programmer Analyst. Second one is Gen Z Pro, which offers you a package of 5.4 LPA, and the designation is Programmer Analyst. And for the third role, which is Gen C, it offers you a package of 4 LPA, and you will be given designation of Programmer Analyst Training. In all the three roles, after joining Cognizant, you will undergo training for 3 months. Then you will assign the project. However, training is only mentioned in Gen Z role, but training is done for all the three roles. Just the differences of packages and technologies that you will work on. So this is about Cognizant. This is the benefits of joining Cognizant. And the most important benefit is there is no service bomb. And you can upgrade yourself by the courses they will assign you. So now let's move on with the hiring process. So first of all, you need to register for this hiring on Superset, in which you have to mention some details and you have to submit your resume. Please note that you must attach a passport size photograph in the corner of your resume. If you fail to do this, your resume will get rejected at that stage only. After the registration, screening of your resume will be done. Please note that registration will happen on Superset platform. So if you don't have the account on Superset platform, please create it. Okay, so after the registration process, screening of your resume is done. And if your resume passes the screening, then you will receive the link for assessments. So after clearing your resume, the first round is communication and then aptitude assessment, which will happen online. You have to give it from home. And if you clear both of these assessments, then you will move forward with technical assessment, which will happen offline in your college. There are three clusters in this technical assessment, which we will be talking about in brief after this process. So if you clear this technical assessment, you will move forward with technical interview, which will also happen in offline mode. And this technical interview and technical assessment will decide your role, whether you get Gen Z Next, Gen Z Pro, or Gen Z. And then you will get letter of intent, and while onboarding you will get offer letter, and then you will join Cognizant as a full-time employee. Firstly, training is done for 3 months, then you will assign a project and you become a full-time employee at Cognizant. So these are some important notes for the assessment. You have only one attempt for all the assessment. You have to clear the assessments in one go, and it is mandatory for you to appear in all the assessments, including communication, aptitude, and technical assessment. The communication and aptitude will conducted online, while technical assessment will be in person in your college. And the technical interview is also in person offline in your college. Skill cluster 1 is the default cluster, which is based on Java, SQL, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, whereas you can choose skill cluster 2 and skill cluster 3 as additional clusters. And here it is mentioned that only few candidates will be considered for skill cluster 2 or skill cluster 3 assessment. So you should be prepared for skill cluster 1, but there is a chance that you can get skill cluster 2 or skill cluster 3 based on the availability. But you can be assigned any cluster as per the Cognizant, and you should be ready for it. In the next video, I will provide you the materials of all the three clusters so you can prepare accordingly. Coding and SQL are in all the clusters, whether you choose cluster 1, cluster 2, or cluster 3. So please make your logic in coding and also prepare for SQL. Prepare basic DSA like array strings, hash maps, hash sets, etc. These will make your logic. So if you are assigned any cluster, you can be ready for it to attempt. Whether you get Gen Z Next, Gen Z Pro or Gen Z, this will be the sole decision of Cognizant. And for Gen Z Next and Gen Z Pro, there will be separate technical interviews after Gen Z. And you fail in these interviews, Gen Z Next and Gen Z Pro interviews, then you don't need to worry, you will still have Gen Z offer. The additional rounds are for the upgrade to Gen Z Next and Gen Z Pro. So, okay, this was the important points. Now let's move on forward with eligibility criteria. You should be a 2026 graduate with BE, BTech or ME, MTech. These streams are excluded. And you should have minimum of 60% in 10, 12 diploma, UG and PG. You cannot round off 59.9% to 60%. And for the next rules, you should have minimum of 70% in 10, 12 diploma, UG and PG. You cannot round off 69.9% to 70%. And the final selection is based on Cognizant and also based on your performance in technical assessments and technical interviews. Mainly it is decided on technical interviews. So you should give interview perfectly. You should not have any standing areas, means backlogs. You should be flexible to work from any Cognizant office location and shift timing. And you should be an Indian national. So this was the eligibility criteria, and this is the basic syllabus of clusters. So in skill cluster 1, we'll have Java, SQL, HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And in skill cluster 2, we will have Python, SQL and cloud fundamentals. And in skill cluster 3, you will have C Sharp, SQL, HTML, CSS and JavaScript. In the second cluster, you don't have HTML, CSS and JavaScript. You just have to know cloud fundamentals. So this is a good thing, and Python is also an easy language. So now let's move on with clusters. It's in-depth syllabus for the hiring. So the first round is communication assessment. So there will be 4 sections in this assessment. First one is pronunciation, second one is speaking fluency, third one is grammar, and fourth one is listening comprehension. So this first three will be fill in the blanks or choose the correct option. And the fourth one will be you have to listen the audio and then you have to answer accordingly to the questions. This is a mandatory assessment to move forward with the hiring process. So please give this accordingly. These are some important points. You can read it by pausing the video. I will move forward with the next assessment. These are the do's and don'ts for communication assessment. Okay, so next assessment is aptitude assessment. It will be of 80 minutes and it will consist of 2 sections. First, quantitative aptitude, and the second one is deductive and inductive reasoning, which is gamified. So first one is general aptitude, MCQ type questions, and second will be gamified aptitude, in which you have to play some games. There are generally 4 games in this. If you want a brief video in this, please comment and I will make a video on it. You have only one attempt to clear both these assessments. These are the mandatory prerequisites. These are the do's and these are don'ts. This is system requirement. Okay, so now let's us move forward with the technical assessment. So this is a very important assessment. You need to have good score in this. So these are the 3 clusters. Now let's move on with skill cluster 1. This is the in-depth syllabus of skill cluster 1. So this is the syllabus of core Java. This is the syllabus of SQL. In Java programming, you will have problem solving, conditional statements, control flow statements, string handling, arrays, date and time, searching, sorting. These are the mandatory ones that you should know. Collection frameworks, functional programming. This will help you in solving the Java questions if you are assigned the cluster of Java. And now let's move on with SQL. Select statement, SQL operators, SQL functions, clauses in SQL, joins and their types, subqueries, views and indexes. So mainly they will ask you about joins. So prepare joins in brief. And then the coding, which is web UI, you will be asked about HTML, CSS and JavaScript. HTML and CSS are mostly one-line codes. You can easily do it. For JavaScript, you need to prepare. And there will be also MCQs of core Java, which will be from these topics. So this is about the Java cluster. Now let's move forward. This is about skill cluster 2, which is Python, SQL and cloud fundamentals. So in coding, Python, you will have syntax and basics, data structures, functions, object-oriented programming, file handling, libraries and modules, and exception handling. The main things you should focus on syntax and basics, data structures, and functions. You can easily make code by all these. Now let's move on with SQL. So SQL is same in all the clusters. You should prepare joins in brief, but you should have knowledge of all this. You can easily solve the question. And there will be two type of MCQs in this question because there is no HTML, CSS and JS. So cloud is included. So you will have cloud MCQs from these topics. You can easily read it from GFG, first 50 questions of cloud fundamentals, and you will have MCQs of Python for these topics. So this is about skill cluster 2. Now we talk about C sharp cluster. So you will have C sharp, SQL, HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So in C sharp, the topics are for coding, problem solving, conditional statements, control flow statements, string handling, arrays, date and time, searching, sorting, object-oriented programming, collection framework, and exception handling. You should focus on problem solving, conditional statements, control flow statements, string handling, and arrays, and searching, sorting. You will do coding in these topics, but you should have slight knowledge of all this. SQL is same in this cluster also. You should have knowledge of SQL in joins. You should have knowledge of joins. You will easily clear all the two questions from SQL. And for web-based questions, there will be HTML, CSS and JavaScript. It is same as the cluster 1. I have already mentioned the details. So you should prepare for this. You should prepare for JavaScript, HTML and CSS. You can easily do it in assessment. And there will be MCQs from C sharp from these topics that are mentioned. So for cluster 1, you will have two coding questions in Java. You will have two questions from SQL, which are generally from joins, and you have one question which is based on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you will have 10 MCQs from core Java. And for skill cluster 2, you will have two coding questions in Python, two SQL questions, which are generally from joins. You will have 10 MCQs of cloud fundamentals. You will have 10 MCQs of Python. So this is about skill cluster 2. And for skill cluster 3, have two coding questions in C sharp. You will have two questions from SQL, which are generally from joins, and you will have one question which is web based and it is consisting of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And you will have 10 MCQs of C sharp. So now let's talk about cutoff. So to be eligible for Gen Z, you should do two coding questions in Java. If the competition is less, you can clear this if you do 1.5 coding questions, which means one code full and one code partial test cases running. And SQL you should do fully. you should attempt all the questions and all should be correct. And in web-based, if you do HTML, CSS and leave JavaScript, it is enough. And MCQ, you should try to do all the MCQs correct. So to be eligible for Gen Z rule. And for Gen Z Pro and Gen Z Next, you should try to attempt 100%. You should do all the codes correct. If one or two test cases do not pass, it is considered. You should do both the SQL questions correctly. And in web-based, you should attempt HTML, CSS as well as JavaScript and all the MCQs correct. For Gen Z next row and Python cluster cutoff is also the same. For Gen Z role, you should do two coding questions correct. 1.5 can also be considered and both the SQL questions correct. And you should at least do 10 MCQs correct from 20 MCQs. And skill cluster 3 cutoff is same as skill cluster 1. You should do 1.5 coding question correct to be eligible for Gen Z and both the SQL questions correct and at least 5 MCQs correct and also HTML, CSS, leaving JavaScript. To be eligible for Pro and Next roles, you should try to attempt 100% correct. So this was all about clusters and syllabus. This is the do's and don'ts of technical assessment. You can read this by pausing the video. And this will happen offline in your college. So prepare for this accordingly. If you clear this technical round, then there are chances that your offer is confirmed for Gen Z role. And for Gen Z Pro and Gen Z Next roles, there will be separate interviews. This will not hinder your Gen Z package. They will are for upgrade. If you do not clear Gen Z Next or Gen Z Pro interview, then your Gen Z offer is safe. So first try to secure Gen Z offer, then move forward with Gen Z Next and Gen Z Pro offers. And the technical assessment is also very important for your package. So perform carefully in the technical assessment. This is a good and very easy opportunity for you all. And if you want, I can prepare you the previous year questions which is being asked in technical assessments, communication assessment, and all the cluster questions which has been asked recently in previous years, web-based questions, technical MCQs. So please comment if you want all this and I will provide you the link in description or I will make a separate video for it. Thank you.